This gang called the Scallywags, and they made their own jackets, and it said, "Scallywags, Jesus is Lord," with a big cross in the middle. It could not have been nerdier. They were just asking to get beat up, right? So they just started like riding with the Black Labels, like, "Hey guys, ring, 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 ring." I'm assuming they had bells on their bikes, right? And the Black Label's like ignoring them, just kind of looking at them like, "What are you doing? You're not in the Black Label. Get out of here." So eventually, the leader of the Black Label kind of sends a message to my friends, and he's like, "Hey, I want you guys to come hang out with us. We've got a little spot on the beach." And the Mississippi River comes through Minneapolis, and some of it, there's like these massive bluffs. And these guys had a spot way down, there was a little patch of beach down this cliff that was like secluded from the city. And the police basically were like, "You guys can hang out down there and drink," and they would like beat each other up just to practice beating people up and fight and do horrible things down there, right? And the police were like, "If you keep it in that little beach where no one can see you, fine. Just don't do that stuff up here." So my friend Ben and his number 2 guy, he's like, "You guys come on down to the beach. We'll hang out." So they go down there. They have a bonfire, they're laughing, they're getting together, they're hanging out. At the end of the day, the leader of the Black Label was like, "You guys are cool, you can ride with us." And Ben's like, "Yay, woohoo! Ring, 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 ring." He's all excited. So they start hanging out with him, having these weird conversations. And then, a year later, the leader of the Black Label was like, "Hey Ben, remember when I asked you to come hang out at the beach?" He's like, "Yeah, that was a fun day. Whee!" He's like, "Yeah, we were gonna kill you." "What?" "Yeah, I didn't like that you guys were like a rival bike gang. I didn't like that. So we invited you down there, and we were going to kill you, and no one would ever know. We'd just throw you in the Mississippi, and maybe they'd find you in St. Louis or something, but then we'd be done." And now it'd send a message to the city, the Black Label's the gang here. And Ben's like, "Oh, thank you for not killing me." So they actually started like doing cool stuff with him, and then they realized that they were getting really good at being bike mechanics. And the other guys were still terrible at it. So they opened up a bike shop. And then they started like repairing all of the bikes in the city, not even just the tall bikes, like messengers and health nuts. And people started bringing their bikes to them, and they're becoming this like place to go to get your bike fixed. And then Ben gets a call from the guy who invented the mountain bike. He's like this legend in the bike world. And he's like, "Hey, I hear you guys are good bicycle mechanics and you're Christians." And he's like, yeah, that's what we do, I guess. He's like, "Hey, okay, cool. I've been working with a group in Rwanda. And there was the genocide in Rwanda. I don't know if you guys know about that, but the whole genocide in Rwanda. And it's like post-genocide, and the government's devastated, the economy's devastated, and they have a Christian president now. And he's trying to bring reconciliation and healing. But they only have one thing that they do well in this country, and it's coffee." He's like, "But the problem with their coffee is that it's way up on the mountains, and these poor coffee farmers, they pick the beans, and they put a bag on their shoulders, and they walk down the mountain, and it takes a couple of days. And by the time they get to the market, their coffee's worth half what it should be." And he's like, "So I figured out we could double the GDP of this country. We could double the economy of this country by just getting the beans to market faster." So he invented this mountain bike station wagon thing. So it was like a long back bicycle, and they could load up 5 or 6 bags of beans, and they can get them to market in a couple hours instead of a couple days. He's like, "It will double the economy of this dying poor country." And so he's like, "Here's the thing. I've got the bikes made. I've got people chipping in for it. The government said we'll fly them over there. The army will fly it for you and drop it off. Everything's covered." He said, "But I know what's going to happen is if we just dump 1,000 bikes in this country, in a year they'll all be falling apart and no one will know how to fix them. So I want you punks from Minneapolis to go to Rwanda and teach the Rwandan coffee farmers how to be bicycle mechanics." He's like, "All right, cool." So they go. These guys with like dreads and tats and holes pierced into their skulls. They go over there and they start teaching these Rwandan people how to be coffee farmers. And so then they're in the middle of Rwandan coffee fields, and all of a sudden Ben's like, "Wait a minute. The two favorite things in my life are bicycles and coffee. We're sitting here in the middle of these coffee fields. We got to figure out how to get these coffee beans back to Minneapolis. So they started taking beans back with them. And then they started roasting them, and they had this, they didn't know it, but it was called fair trade coffee. And they used those crazy station wagon bikes to deliver coffee to different shops in Minneapolis. And they have this unbelievably cool ministry where they repair bikes and they talk to weird street kids and they fly to Africa and teach them how to be bicycle mechanics and they sell coffee. Everything that they're doing is freaking amazing. But what happened was, what started it all was Ben just looking out his front door and saying, who's my neighbor? And that path that God took them on, Ben could have never made that one up, man. He could never have imagined that thing. But he was just faithful with handing out the little biscuits, right? God said, I have a job for you to do. I want you to ride with these guys that want to kill you. Are you willing to do that? Cool, yeah. And it took him to this amazing place. I love these guys, man. I love what they're doing, and I love how they got there. And I feel like that's what happens when we start just doing these little things, these little bits of love, these little pieces of love. God's like, I got something for you. You're not going to like it. It's going to seem like nothing to you. But man, it's going to be huge. It's going to be huge. I just want you to love your neighbor. You guys, there's that part of the Bible that talks about the fruit of the Spirit. The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience. Anyone? No? Okay, let's just read it. It's in the Bible here. This is what we're supposed to do. This is what fruit is here. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against such things there is no law. Let's read through that again. Let's back up. The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such things there is no law. Okay, what does against such things there is no law mean? It means that nowhere in the world is it illegal to be patient or have love or be kind. No one in the world outlaws those things. Everyone wants these things in their life. Everyone, right? Cool. So that's what we're supposed to do. If we're following Jesus, we're supposed to have that fruit. I have a very important question for you. What's fruit for? For what? For eating. It's for eating. Yeah, it's good. What else? Here, use your brain for a second. Okay, what's fruit for? What? Yes, just yell it out. Juicing. Yes. We must juice the fruit. What else? There's more. Vitamins. That is a very important part of fruit. Okay, yes.
Cutting into various fancy assortments.
Putting into various fancy assortments.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Reproducing.
Wait, what? Reproducing? What do you mean? The fruit is for making more fruit? How does that work?
Seeds.
Yes! I like the various assortments idea. That's a good one. But I think we're going to go with reproducing. Yes! That's what fruit is for. I mean, yeah, totally. We eat it, and it's delicious, and we put it in various assortments. And we, Latin American women put it in their hat and dance, and we put it in a little bowl in 9th grade art class and try to paint it. Those are all valuable uses of fruit. But the main reason fruit exists is to create more fruit. Fruit exists to get more of those trees, right? Maybe this will help. Okay, so when I first got married, my father-in-law, who happens to be my wife's dad, we were in Michigan, right? They lived in rural Michigan, and we went there for the first time. Old people got it. Okay, so we were in rural Michigan, and I'd never been there before, and I kind of imagined Michigan as the real Slim Shady and closed factories and Michael Moore that was there. I was imagining all of that stuff. But really, it was just this beautiful rolling farmland. We got there in the morning, there was fog hanging between the hills, and it was gorgeous. I couldn't believe it. I'm walking around with my father-in-law. There's like a pond here and a lake on the other side of the hill. It's like, this is amazing. I have not been shot one time. This is great. I'm totally loving it. And he's like, yeah, this land has been in our family for forever. And here's how we got it. When we took over this land, the entire thing was completely covered with these like 5-foot thorny apple trees because it had been sitting here forever abandoned. So it used to be usable farmland in the Depression, and when people kind of got jobs again, they just sort of left it. And there was like one tree over in the corner, and the cows would go there and they would eat the apples, and then they would poop out the apple seeds, and then there'd be another tree here, and then years later there's more trees, and then the cows are pooping everywhere, and pretty soon there were trees everywhere. And so when we got here, we had to like tear out hundreds of trees to get it back to here. What's the point of that story? Sometimes God says, I want you to have love, joy, peace, patience, goodness, kindness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. I want you to produce this fruit. And the fat cows in our lives, they eat the fruit and they poop it out on the hill. And we're like, God, that is not what I wanted with my fruit. God, you're doing it all wrong. And God's like, no. Your job is to produce the fruit. I'll decide what happens to it. I'll decide what happens to it. You're like, no, God, you're doing it wrong. We need a new marketing strategy for your fruit, God. And I've got it. It's called fruit, exclamation point. And it's going to be great. And here's what we're going to do. We need a better system. We need conveyor belts. A lot of my fruit just falls on the ground, God. And honestly, that offends me. And so what we're going to do is we're going to catch that fruit. We're going to put it on conveyor belts. We're going to get it in trucks. We're going to ship it to the city. I've got a strategy for you, God. It's going to be awesome. And God's like, hey, Wes, shut up. I want you to have love, joy, peace, patience, goodness, kindness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. That's it. That's all I want you to do. Just when you're dealing with your obnoxious family, I just want you to have love, joy, peace, patience, goodness, kindness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. And I'll take that fruit. And you're not going to like what I do with it. It's true. You're not going to like it. But I guarantee you, great things will happen with that fruit if you let me do it. Just let me do it. Yeah, it's going to feel like some of that fruit falls on the ground and rots. Yeah, you know what? It's going to feel like the fat cows eat that fruit and they poop it out on the hills. You're not going to like that. But just let me take that fruit. It's going to be amazing. I'll do great things with that fruit. So we're going to go home. Maybe. We might not be going home. But eventually we'll go home, right? And eventually all of the awesomeness of this weekend will start to wear off and we'll be like, God, I want that kind of awesome feeling again. And God's going to be like, cool, I've got some great things in store for you. I want you to talk to that person that is so freaking mean to you. You'll be like, that's not the feeling I was talking about. I want the skippy, jumping up and down feeling. God's like, no, I've got great things in store for you. I want you to have love, joy, peace, patience, goodness, kindness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Will you do that? Will you sit next to Kyle on the bus, even if he yells at you? Will you do that? Will you love your family? Oh, that's not fair, is it? That's totally not fair. But that's what God wants from us. That's the big thing that God has for us. That's the Great Commission. That's how we tell the world as we start spreading this fruit. And it works. Will you guys talk about that on your bus ride home, or van ride home, or car ride home? Will you talk about who in your life needs some fruit? Who needs a little bit of fruit? Who needs a biscuit? Will you guys do that? Okay. Let's pray.